Mafia boss notices his maid hiding Bruises. What he did next shocked the entire city. Before we start today's story, comment below where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you haven't already. You won't want to miss what's next. Her sleeve slipped when she poured his coffee, showing bruises she had tried so hard to hide. The maid quickly made an excuse about being clumsy, but the Mafia boss saw the fear in her eyes. What she didn't know was that, at that very moment, he had decided she was now under his protection. And once Adrian Duca made a promise, nothing in the world could stop him from keeping it. Adrian Duca didn't believe in coincidences. At exactly 6:47 a.m., he sat in his study high above the Chicago skyline, reading through long financial reports that would make most people fall asleep. But Adrian wasn't like most people. He noticed everything: the shake in someone's voice during a deal, the half-second pause before a handshake, the way a person's eyes moved when they lied. So when Elena Cruz came into his office carrying his morning espresso, he saw right away that something was wrong. Her sleeve was pulled too far down her arm, covering her hand. It wasn't by accident. She had pulled it down on purpose, gripping the edge like she was trying to hide something underneath. "Good morning, Mr. Duca," she said softly. Her voice was so quiet it was almost a whisper. In the 3 months she had worked for him, he had never heard her speak loudly, never seen her raise her voice even when the kitchen staff were shouting orders back and forth. "Morning, Elena," he replied calmly, watching her closely. She moved carefully, like every step and motion had been practiced. She placed the small porcelain cup on his desk with both hands. That's when it happened. The sleeve slipped. It fell back for just a second or two, but that was enough time for Adrian to see. Dark purple bruises wrapped around her wrist like cruel bracelets. Some were fresh, deep purple and angry-looking. Others had turned a faded greenish yellow, the color that meant they were a few days old. His eyes caught them instantly before she could pull the sleeve back down. When she realized he had seen, she froze. Her body went still. "Elena," he said quietly, setting down his pen. "Sit down." "Oh, I should get back to." "Sit." He didn't raise his voice. Adrian didn't have to. There was something about his tone, cold, controlled, commanding, that made people listen. She slowly sat down in the leather chair across from his desk, her small hands twisting together in her lap like she wanted to disappear. "What happened to your wrist?" he asked. "Nothing, sir," she said quickly. "I'm just clumsy." She tried to laugh, but it was thin and shaky, like broken glass. "I bumped it on the cabinet door yesterday while cleaning." Adrian leaned back, studying her. He knew she was 28 years old. He had read her file when she was hired. She was petite, with dark hair always tied back neatly in a bun and large brown eyes that almost never met anyone's directly. Mrs. Hahn, his longtime housekeeper, had recommended her, saying she was thorough, polite, and quiet. But Mrs. Hahn hadn't mentioned the fear. Because that's what Adrian saw now. Not embarrassed about being clumsy. Not guilt. Real fear. "Both wrists?" he asked softly. He had noticed how she kept rubbing her other arm, like it hurt too. Elena went pale. "Ah, yes, I'm very clumsy," she said weakly. "Show me," he said in a calm but firm voice. "Really, I'm fine, Mr. Duca." "Elena, show me." Her hands trembled as she slowly pulled back both sleeves. Adrian's jaw tightened as he saw the same dark marks on her other wrist, finger-shaped bruises. Someone had grabbed her hard. Recently. A cold anger settled deep inside his chest. Adrian Duca had built an empire in the dark corners of Chicago. He had done things that kept him awake at night, things that weren't legal or kind. But he had rules, his own code. One of those rules was simple. You don't hurt people who can't fight back. "Who did this?" he asked, voice steady but cold. "Nobody," she said quickly. "I told you, I'm just clumsy." "Elena," he said quietly, leaning forward, his elbows resting on the desk. "I'm going to ask you one more time. You work in my house, under my roof. That means you're under my protection. Do you understand?" She looked up at him with wide, frightened eyes. For a second, he thought she might tell him. Her lips parted slightly, and he could almost see the battle inside her. The part that wanted to tell the truth fighting the part that was too scared to speak. Then she stood up suddenly. I really should get back to work. The breakfast dishes. Elena. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Duca. I promise I'll be more careful. And before he could say another word, she was gone, hurrying out of the room, nearly running. Adrian sat in silence, staring at the closed door. He stayed that way for a long time, thinking. Then he picked up his phone. Mrs. Hahn, my office. Now. 3 minutes later, his housekeeper entered the room. Patricia Hahn had worked for the Duca family for more than 30 years. She was 62, sharp as a blade, and one of the few people in the world who wasn't afraid to tell Adrian when he was being stupid. You bellowed, she said dryly, closing the door behind her. Elena, he said. Tell me about her. Mrs. Hahn's expression changed immediately. What happened? She's hurt, Adrian said flatly. Bruises on both wrists. She's terrified and lying about it. Jesus, Mrs. Hahn whispered, sinking into the chair Elena had sat in. I didn't know. I swear, Adrian, I didn't know. What do you know about her personal life? Not much, Mrs. Hahn said slowly. She keeps to herself. I know she was married, but she's divorced now. She needed the job badly when she applied. She had good references from her old employers, a family up on the North Shore. They moved to Connecticut and couldn't take her with them. Why did she need work so badly? Adrian asked. Mrs. Hahn shrugged. Divorce is expensive. She said she was living with her sister for a while, trying to get back on her feet. Adrian drummed his fingers on the desk. Find out where she goes after work. Don't follow her yourself. Have Leo do it. Quietly. I want to know where she lives, who she talks to, and if anyone's bothering her. You think it's her ex-husband? I think someone hurt her, Adrian said, his voice low and cold. And she's too scared to report it. Nobody touches my people. Patricia. Nobody. Mrs. Hahn nodded. She had seen this side of him before. The protective, almost paternal side that came out when someone in his circle was in danger. For all the dark things Adrian had done, he had a sense of loyalty. I'll talk to her again, Mrs. Hahn said softly. Maybe she'll open up to another woman. Do that, Adrian said. But be careful. She's already spooked. When she left, Adrian turned back to his computer, but the numbers on the screen meant nothing now. He was still thinking about the bruises on Elena's wrists. He picked up his phone again and called his head of security. Rico, I need you to run a background check on Elena Cruz. Everything, where she's lived, who she was married to, any police reports, restraining orders, anything. Quietly. How fast do you need it? Rico asked. Yesterday, Adrian said, and hung up. He looked out the window at Lake Michigan. The sun was climbing higher, turning the sky gold and orange. But inside Adrian, something darker was rising. Someone had hurt Elena Cruz. Someone had made her afraid. And whoever it was had just made a very big mistake. By noon, there was a knock at his office door. Rico walked in with a manila folder in hand. That was fast, Adrian said. It wasn't hard, Rico replied grimly. But you're not going to like it. Adrian opened the folder. Inside was a photo of a man in a Chicago Police Department uniform. Broad shoulders, sandy blonde hair, and cold blue eyes. The smile on his face didn't look real. Officer Ethan Cade, Rico said. Married Elena 6 years ago. Divorced 8 months ago. Works patrol out of the 14th District. His uncle's a deputy chief. Adrian's jaw tightened. There were 2 domestic disturbance calls to their old address in the past year, Rico continued. Both times, Elena refused to press charges. Neighbors said they heard fights. Then she filed for divorce and got a restraining order. It expired 3 weeks ago, and she didn't renew it. Why not? Adrian asked quietly. She tried, Rico said. Cade showed up at court with a lawyer, a good one, probably paid for by the uncle. The judge said she didn't have new evidence, so he denied the renewal. So she's unprotected, Adrian said flatly. Yeah. And boss, there's more. Rico pulled out his phone and showed him a photo from social media. It showed Ethan Cade at a bar, arm around another cop, both of them holding beers. He's close with a dozen cops in his district, Rico said. If Elena tried to report him now, nothing would happen. They'd protect him. Adrian closed the folder carefully. Where does she live? Apartment in Pilsen, Rico said. She's living with her sister, Camila. The building's old, no security. She takes the bus to and from work. Adrian stood, walking to the window. Put cameras at that bus stop. I want to know if he goes near her. Already on it, Rico said. Leo's reviewing footage from our gates in case he's been following her here. After Rico left, Adrian tried to focus on work again, but his mind kept drifting back to Elena. Somewhere in his house, she was cleaning floors or dusting shelves, trying to act normal, trying to make herself invisible. But she was carrying bruises from a man who once promised to love her, a man who wore a badge. Adrian almost laughed at the irony. He was the criminal. Yet somehow, he was more disgusted by a so-called lawman, who beat a woman than by anything he himself had done. Around 2 in the afternoon, Mrs. Hahn came back to his office. I talked to her, she said quietly. Or tried to. She's terrified, Adrian. What did she say? I brought her tea, sat with her in the kitchen, Mrs. Hahn said. Told her this was a safe place. She thanked me but kept shaking so badly she almost dropped her cup. She said she's been having trouble sleeping. Hears noises outside her apartment at night. Tried to laugh it off, said it's just the neighborhood being loud, but I think she's being watched. Before Adrian could reply, his phone buzzed. A text from Leo. You need to see this. Send him up, Adrian said. 2 minutes later, Leo came in with his laptop. He was young, maybe 26, quick-thinking, and good with technology. This is from 3 days ago, Leo said, setting the laptop on the desk. 6:47 p.m. Elena leaving through the side gate. The screen showed grainy footage of Elena walking out, holding her purse tightly against her chest. She looked around nervously before heading toward the bus stop. Watch, Leo said, skipping ahead. A dark blue sedan rolled slowly past the gate. The driver wore sunglasses even though it was early evening. From the side, Adrian could see sandy blonde hair. That's him, Rico said from the doorway. Ran the plates, registered to Ethan Cade. He's following her, Mrs. Hahn said, her voice tight with anger. There's more, Leo said. He opened another file. This was yesterday. Same car. Same time. The video showed Elena again, waiting at the bus stop. The dark blue car pulled up and stopped right beside her. Even through the grainy image, Adrian could see her body tense up. Her shoulders hunched, her head dropped, and her hands gripped her purse like it was the only thing keeping her steady. The car sat there for 3 long minutes, just idling, watching her. Then it drove away. He's not touching her, Leo said quietly. He's smart. He's just showing up, letting her know he's there, reminding her he can get close anytime he wants. Adrian's face went cold. That's not just watching, he said. His voice was low, dangerous. That's intimidation. That's terror. He looked at the screen one more time, at the woman who had tried so hard to stay invisible, and then at the man stalking her. His eyes darkened. He's hunting her. Mrs. Chin suddenly stood up, her usual calm gone. Her voice shook a little. We need to do something, she said. We can't just sit here and watch this happen. Adrian leaned back in his chair. His eyes were hard, focused. We won't, he said. Then he turned to Rico. I want to know everything about Ethan Cade. Where he lives, where he hangs out, who he spends time with, what time he gets his morning coffee. I want to know his whole routine, his habits, his secrets, everything. Rico hesitated. His uncle's a deputy chief, boss. If we move against a cop, I know what he is, Adrian interrupted. His voice was low but strong. That's exactly why we're going to be careful. We're not touching him. Not yet. Rico frowned. Then what are we doing? Adrian looked at the frozen image on the screen. Elena, standing on a dark street corner, scared, while a man in uniform circled like a predator. We're going to watch him, Adrian said. We're going to learn his patterns. And we're going to record everything. He turned to Leo. I want cameras on every route Elena takes to and from work. Every time Cade follows her, stares at her, or tries to scare her, I want it on camera. Every detail. Time, date, and place. Rico leaned forward. So we're building a case? Adrian shook his head slowly. No. We're building ammunition. Rico blinked. Ammunition? Yes, Adrian said. Cade thinks he's untouchable because he wears a badge. He thinks Elena is just a scared woman with no one to protect her. He's wrong. Mrs. Chin moved toward the door, then stopped. What do we tell Elena? She asked softly. Nothing, Adrian said firmly. Not yet. If we tell her what we're doing, she'll panic. She might do something unpredictable. She needs to act normal. Keep coming to work, keep her routine. But she's suffering, Mrs. Chin said, her voice trembling. I know, Adrian said. His tone softened. But if we move too fast, we might make things worse. Cade's careful. He's smart enough to stay just inside the law. We need him to cross the line first. We need proof, undeniable proof. When they left the room, Adrian stayed behind, staring at the security footage still playing on his laptop. He saw Elena's fear again, the way she tried to make herself small, invisible. It twisted something inside him. Ethan Cade thought that being a cop made him untouchable. He thought he could hurt people without consequences. He was wrong. That night, Adrian sat alone in his private study. A glass of whiskey sat in front of him, untouched. The ice had melted into the amber liquid, forgotten. His eyes were locked on the multiple monitors Leo had set up, each showing a different camera angle from around his property and nearby streets. At 6:43 p.m., his phone rang. It was Leo. His voice was tense. Boss, you need to come down to the security room. Adrian didn't ask questions. He took the private elevator down to the basement, to the room that almost no one in his house knew existed, the heart of his security operations. When he stepped inside, Leo and Rico were already there. Their faces were pale and grim. 3 large monitors glowed in front of them, each showing paused footage. We went back further, Leo said immediately. 2 weeks worth of footage from every camera we control. Plus, I hacked into the traffic cameras near the property and the bus stop Elena uses. Adrian nodded once. Show me. Leo clicked play on the first monitor. This one's from 11 days ago. The video showed a bus stop about 3 blocks from Adrian's mansion. Elena stood there alone, looking at her phone. Then, a familiar blue sedan pulled up. Ethan Cade got out, still wearing his police uniform. Elena's head lifted. The moment she saw him, she turned and started walking away quickly. Watch, Leo said quietly. The traffic camera caught the rest. Cade caught up to her, grabbed her arm, and spun her around. There was no sound, but it was clear Elena was pleading with him to let her go. Cade leaned in close, his grip tight on her arm. When she tried to pull away, he grabbed her other arm too, trapping her. Adrian's hands curled into fists as he watched. After about 90 seconds, Cade suddenly let go, turned around, and walked back to his car. He drove off, leaving Elena standing there, shaking. She rubbed her arms where he had held her. The bruises, Adrian said quietly. That's where they came from. There's more, Rico said. Show him Tuesday. Leo switched to the next file. This time it was raining. Elena had an umbrella and was running toward the bus stop. Cade's car was already parked there, waiting. He stepped out as soon as she approached. He didn't wait for her to see him. He moved fast, blocking her path. She tried to go around him, but he kept stepping in front of her, backing her against the glass wall of the bus shelter. His hand came up, pointing and jabbing near her face as he shouted something they couldn't hear. A bus pulled up. Elena darted around him and practically jumped onto it. Cade stood there, watching as it drove away, then calmly got back into his car. "And now yesterday," Leo said in a tight voice. "This one's worse." He clicked another file. The screen showed Elena leaving through the side gate of Adrian's property. She looked exhausted, scrolling through her phone as she walked. Then Cade appeared, walking fast from around the corner. Elena saw him and froze, pressing her back against the gate. Cade stepped closer, both hands on her shoulders, pushing her back against the metal bars. Elena turned her face away, crying. His hand slid up to her throat, not squeezing, just resting there. A silent threat. A reminder that he could hurt her whenever he wanted. The footage continued for almost 4 minutes. Then, an old man walking his dog came into view. Cade immediately stepped back, straightened up, and acted like nothing had happened. He even nodded politely to the man before walking away. Elena sank to the ground, sobbing. Adrian's chest tightened. The calm, professional mask he usually wore cracked. His anger burned hot and steady, dangerous. "Turn it off," he said quietly. Leo paused the video. The room went silent except for the hum of the computers. "He's been doing this for weeks," Rico said. "Maybe months. Those are just the times we caught on camera. Who knows what he's done when no one's watching?" Adrian's eyes stayed on the frozen image of Elena's tear-streaked face. His voice was cold and even. "He's a cop." "Yeah," Rico said bitterly. "Protected by his badge, by his uncle, by the system. Elena can't report him, they'll cover it up. The judge already denied her restraining order. She can't quit her job, and he knows exactly where she works. She's trapped." Adrian nodded slowly. "She's trapped," he repeated, his tone like steel. He turned to Leo. "You backed up everything?" "3 times, Leo said. "Encrypted drives, cloud backups, all secure." "Good," Adrian said. "Now I want everything from Ethan Cade. Not just what's public. Everything. His money, his debts, his car, his friends. A patrol cop with a fancy car and an expensive lawyer? Something's off. Does he gamble? Does he owe someone money? Does he have secrets?" Leo hesitated. "You want us to investigate a police officer?" Adrian looked straight at him. "No," he said. "I want you to investigate a predator who happens to wear a badge." Rico frowned. "So what's the plan, boss?" Adrian's eyes went back to the screen, to Cade's hand on Elena's throat. "We're going to show him that badges don't stop bullets." Rico's eyes widened. "Boss." "It's a metaphor," Adrian said calmly. "I'm not killing a cop. That would bring too much attention, and it would scare Elena even more. We're not going to kill him." "Then what?" Rico asked. Adrian gave a cold, humorless smile. "We're going to destroy him, his reputation, his power, his protection. We're going to take away everything that makes him feel untouchable. When we're done, he'll be nothing." "That'll take time," Leo warned. "Then we'd better start now," Adrian said. He walked to the door. "I want a full report by morning. Financial records, friends, enemies, habits. Dig until you find something. If Ethan Cade has skeletons in his closet, I want to know where they're buried." Both men nodded and got to work. Adrian took the elevator back up to his study. Outside, the lights of Chicago shimmered in the night like fallen stars. Somewhere out there, Elena was probably sitting in her small apartment, scared and tired. And somewhere else, Ethan Cade was probably laughing over drinks with his buddies, feeling untouchable. Adrian picked up his phone and made a call. "Consigliere," he said when Alan Caro answered. "We need to talk." "How delicate?" Alan asked. "We're going after a police officer." There was a long pause. "I'm listening," Alan said finally. "Good," Adrian replied. Because we need to be very careful with this one. He hung up and looked out over the city. Cade had made a fatal mistake. He'd hurt someone under Adrian Duca's protection. Now he was going to learn what happened when you crossed the wrong man. The next morning, Adrian found Elena in the library. She was dusting shelves with slow, careful movements. She looked like she was trying to disappear. "Elena," Adrian said softly from the doorway. "Can you come to my office, please?" Her body went stiff. The duster slipped from her fingers. I'm not finished here yet, Mr. Duca," she said quickly. "I can come later." "Now, please," he said gently but firmly. "It's important." Elena nodded, her eyes wide, and followed him down the hall. She walked like someone heading to her own execution, her hands gripping each other tightly, knuckles white. When they reached his office, Adrian gestured to the chair across from his desk, the same chair she'd fled from 2 days earlier. "Sit down, Elena." She sat on the edge of the seat, ready to bolt. Adrian closed the door, then leaned against his desk instead of sitting, trying to seem less intimidating. He was tall and broad-shouldered. He knew he could look scary even when he didn't mean to. "I'm going to ask you something," he said quietly. "And I need you to be honest with me. Can you do that?" Elena kept her eyes on her lap. "Yes, sir," she whispered. "Who's hurting you?" She froze. "Nobody," she said quickly. "I told you, I'm fine." He waited until she looked at him. Her eyes were full of fear. "I know you're scared," he said gently. "And I know you think that telling me will make things worse. But I need you to trust me." She shook her head. "I can't. Talking about it makes it worse. Every time I've tried to get help, it just makes him angrier." "There it is," Adrian said softly. "Him. Your ex-husband." Her head shot up, eyes wide. "How did you?" "It's my job to know things," he said simply. He moved closer, sitting so they were at the same level. "Ethan Cade, Chicago PD, 14th District. You were married 5 years, divorced 8 months ago." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Please don't get involved," she said, her voice breaking. "You don't understand what he can do." "Then tell me," Adrian said calmly. "He'll hurt you," she whispered. "Or he'll use his friends to arrest you for something fake. He can ruin lives." "Elena," Adrian said, his tone soft but firm. "Look at me." She did. Her face was streaked with tears. "I'm not afraid of Ethan Cade," he said. "But I need to understand what's been happening. Tell me everything." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, like a dam bursting, all the words came out. "He won't leave me alone," she cried. "I thought when the divorce was final, I'd finally be free. I got a restraining order. I moved in with my sister. I changed my phone number. But he always finds me. He waits at the bus stop. He follows me to work. He parks outside my sister's apartment at 2 in the morning and just sits there in his car, watching." Adrian clenched his jaw, but stayed quiet. "I went to his station," she said bitterly. "I tried to report him. They laughed at me. They said Ethan's a good officer, that I was just overreacting because of the divorce. One of them even told me I should be grateful he still cared." She looked down, her shoulders shaking. "He is the police, Mr. Duca. He is the law. Who do you call when the person hurting you wears a badge?" Adrian's eyes darkened. "What about the restraining order?" "It expired 3 weeks ago," she said quietly. "I tried to renew it, but Ethan showed up with an expensive lawyer. The judge said there wasn't enough proof of recent harassment. Denied it. And even when I had it, it didn't matter. He'd find ways to come close without breaking it. He knows every loophole." Adrian leaned forward. "What does he want from you?" Elena let out a small, bitter laugh. "Me. He says I embarrassed him. That I made him look weak in front of his friends. He says if he can't have me, he'll make sure I'm too scared to ever have a life without him." She covered her face with her hands, crying quietly. Adrian sat there for a moment, watching her cry. Then, very softly, he said, "He's wrong, Elena. You're not alone anymore." She looked up at Adrian with desperate, scared eyes. "I can't sleep. I can't eat. Every time I leave the house I'm shaking because I think he'll be there." Her voice broke as she spoke. "I can't quit this job, I need the money, but I'm so scared he'll follow me here, make trouble, and then you'll fire me." "Stop," Adrian said, cutting through her panic. His voice was calm but firm. "I'm not going to fire you. But Elena, listen to me very carefully." He leaned forward in his chair and spoke slowly, so she could hear every word. "You work in my house. You are under my protection. That means something. Do you understand? You can't fight the police." "I'm not fighting the police," Elena answered. I have nowhere to go." Adrian stood up and walked to the window with his hands in his pockets. He looked out for a moment, then turned back. "Ethan Cade thinks he's untouchable because of that badge. He thinks he can scare you because you have nowhere to turn." "I don't," Elena whispered. "I don't have anywhere to turn." "Yes, you do," Adrian said, turning back to her. "You are here. You have me. Why?" The question came out small and confused. "Why would you help me? I'm just a maid." "Because what he's doing is wrong," Adrian said simply, like it should have been obvious. "And because I don't let people get hurt on my watch." "You don't understand. He has friends. His uncle is a deputy chief. If you try anything—" Elena stopped, afraid of what would happen if she said more. Adrian moved back to his chair and sat down. He looked right at her. "I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to believe me. Ethan Cade will never touch you again. I don't make promises I can't keep." She stared at him, searching his face for any sign that he might be lying. "How can you promise that?" she asked. Adrian said quietly, "I'm very good at what I do. What if he retaliates? What if he comes after you? Let me worry about that." His voice was gentle but steady. "All I need from you is to keep coming to work. Act normal. Don't do anything different. Can you do that?" "You want me to just pretend everything's fine while he's out there?" she asked, amazed and frightened. "Yes. I know it's hard, but I need you to trust me." He stood and walked to his desk. He pulled a business card from a drawer and wrote something on the back of it. "This is my private cell phone number. If Cade approaches you, if you feel unsafe, if anything happens, call me immediately. Day or night. Understand?" Elena took the card with shaking hands. "Mr. Duca, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything." He opened the office door for her. "Just know you're not alone anymore." After she left, Adrian stayed by the window and watched her walk slowly back toward the kitchen. Her shoulders were still tense and her steps careful, but something had changed. She had told someone the truth. She had asked for help. And Adrian Duca had decided he would not let her face this alone. He picked up his phone and called. "Rico, we're moving to the next phase. I want everything on Cade by this afternoon. And I mean everything." Alan Caro arrived at the mansion at 3 o'clock that afternoon. He walked into Adrian's study with the confident, calm way of a man who had been the family's advisor for 20 years. He was about 60, with silver hair and sharp eyes. He had kept the Duca organization out of big trouble many times. "You want to go after a cop?" Alan said right away, sitting down on the leather chair like he always did. "Have you lost your mind?" "Good afternoon to you too," Adrian said dryly. He poured 2 glasses of scotch and handed one to Alan. "I don't want to go after him." "I have to," Adrian said. "No, you don't," Alan said. "You want to go after him? There's a difference. Walk me through this." Adrian handed Alan a manila folder. Alan opened it and looked at Ethan Cade's photo. He studied the picture the way someone who knows how to judge danger studies it. Cop, young, connected. Alan looked up from the photo. His uncle's a deputy chief? Alan Cade has been on the force 30 years and runs 2 districts. Jesus, Adrian. Alan tossed the folder back onto the desk. You're talking about touching someone who comes from a family that bleeds blue. You understand what that means. I understand he's been stalking and assaulting one of my employees for months, Adrian answered. I know she's terrified. Your maid, Alan said, making it clear. Not your daughter. Not your sister. A maid you've known for 3 months. Adrian's eyes flashed with anger. Does that matter in terms of risk? Yes, it absolutely matters, Alan said. If we move on this cop and something happens to him, the whole police department will be on our case. They'll investigate every business you own, every associate, every deal you've made. They'll want someone to blame. I don't think you're seeing the full risk. I am, Adrian said quietly. I'm thinking that if word gets out that someone can hurt people under my protection without consequence, we look weak. We look like we can be pushed around. Alan's voice got a bit louder. This isn't some rival family or business competitor. This is law enforcement. A dead cop is a dead cop, and they will never stop looking. I'm not going to kill him, Alan, Adrian said. Then what are you going to do? Alan asked. I don't know yet, Adrian admitted. That's why you're here. Help me figure out how to handle this without bringing the kind of heat you're worried about. Alan sat quietly, studying Adrian's face for a long moment. You're really not going to let this go, are you? If someone was hurting someone you promised to protect, would you just walk away? Alan sighed. Show me everything you have on him. For the next hour, Adrian showed Alan every piece of evidence they had. The surveillance footage of Ethan, the background check, the restraining order, and Elena's crying confession. Alan watched, asked questions, and wrote notes on a pad. He looked troubled. Your issue is his uncle, Alan said finally. Alan Cade has influence. He's friends with the mayor, the police superintendent, half the city council. If we go after Ethan and the uncle gets involved, we're dealing with institutional protection. How do we neutralize that? Adrian asked. You're asking the wrong question, Alan said. The real question is how to make sure we don't have to touch him. What do you mean? Adrian asked. We don't hit Ethan Cade. Not physically. Not even close, Alan said. We make him radioactive. We make it so his own department wants nothing to do with him. Everyone has people they've rubbed the wrong way. We find those people, expose his weaknesses, and let the system, internal affairs, the media, his enemies, tear him down. We don't hit him. We expose him. Adrian thought about that. How long would that take? Weeks, maybe a month, Alan said. It has to look natural. It can't look like we orchestrated it. Elena doesn't have a month, Adrian said quietly. He's getting worse. Today it's intimidation. Tomorrow it could be worse. Then we put protection on her. Quietly. People he won't notice, Alan said. He's a cop. He's trained to notice. Or we set her up with money and a new life someplace far away. Adrian shook his head. She has a sister here. She has a life. Why should she have to run and leave everything? Because it might be safer, Alan said bluntly. For her and for us. Adrian looked at the frozen image of Elena's crying face on the screen. He remembered what she'd said. Who do you call when the person hurting you has a badge? No one. The system protects its own. Unless someone outside the system decides to correct the balance. We're not sending her away, Adrian said at last. And we're not going to physically touch Cade. Alan looked relieved. Good. So? We are going to destroy him, Adrian said. We will take away everything that makes him feel untouchable. His money, his reputation, his connections. We won't hit him first. We'll remove his protection and let him fall. Alan studied Adrian for a long moment and then nodded slowly. All right, but we do it my way. Controlled. No improvising. No emotional moves. If the heat gets too intense, we pull back. Deal, Adrian said, and they shook hands. Two men in the shadows were planning the downfall of a man who wore the light, a cop with a badge. Rico Mcino knew how to get information. He believed information was the most valuable thing. It was money and power mixed together. Over the next 48 hours, Rico and his team started working on every angle they could think of. We start with the money, Rico said as he spread documents over the conference table in Adrian's secure basement office. Leo sat with his laptop, screens glowing. Alan watched from a corner with his arms crossed. Cade's official salary is $62,000 a year, Rico said. He rents an apartment in Lincoln Park. $1,500 a month. He drives a 2023 Dodge Charger. He eats out 4 or 5 times a week at places that aren't cheap. He's living above his means. Way above, Leo said. He pulled up bank statements on the main screen. How'd you get his bank records? Alan asked. My sources, Leo said with a grin. His bank has terrible cybersecurity. I didn't even need to try hard. Alan frowned. That's felony hacking if they can prove it. Only if they look into it, Leo shrugged. He scrolled through statements. $43,000 in cash deposits over the last year. Where's it coming from? That's the fun part, Rico said, pulling out another file. I've got a confidential informant who works in the 14th district. He says Cade's been running a side hustle for at least 2 years. What kind of hustle? Adrian asked. The old kind. Traffic stops in good neighborhoods. Find something, drugs, an open container, and offer to make it go away for cash. Sometimes he works with his partner, Officer Nate Holloway. They split it. Adrian felt disgusted. Rico slid a photo across the table. It showed Ethan Cade sitting at a table outside a bar called Murphy's Pub with 3 other men. That's Tommy Rourke, Alan said, naming the man Adrian didn't know. He runs protection on the south side. Dirty business. Rico nodded. Cade drinks with Rourke twice a month. They have a deal. Cade tips Rourke off about raids and helps move products when needed. Rourke gives him cash and muscle. So he's crooked, Adrian said, feeling anger and a cold sense of how dangerous this was. Yep, Rico said. Leo typed faster. I dug into his arrest record. 2 years ago, Cade arrested a guy named Carlos Mendez for drugs. Mendez said Cade planted the drugs, but nobody believed him. Mendez got 5 years. Mendez's girlfriend at the time filed a complaint that Cade sexually harassed her during the arrest. The complaint went to Internal Affairs. Who investigated that complaint? Alan asked. Lieutenant Paul Brennan. He's a friend of Cade's uncle, Leo said. The complaint was deemed unfounded. Case closed. Adrian leaned forward. There's a pattern. They cover for him. A whole network, Leo corrected. He pulled up a diagram on his screen. It showed lines connecting Ethan Cade to at least 8 other officers. They drink together, take security jobs together. Every one of them has at least one complaint: excessive force, misconduct, harassment, and every one of those complaints went nowhere. They protect each other. You don't rat on your brothers, Rico said. It's a brotherhood. You don't rat on your brothers, Adrian added, his voice cold. Alan studied the diagram. This is good. This is the kind of pattern Internal Affairs would care about if it showed up in front of the right people. There's more, Rico said. Cade's partner, Nate Holloway, has a gambling problem. He owes money to 3 bookies. One of those bookies told my guy Holloway brags that he and Cade are untouchable because of Uncle Alan. Adrian took it all in. Ethan Cade was not just an abusive ex-husband who scared a maid. He was a corrupt cop who leaned on a network that protected him. He had connections, money that didn't match his paycheck, and complaints that disappeared. Adrian and his team now had a long list of problems they could use to make Cade vulnerable. What about the uncle? Adrian asked. What do we know about Alan Cade? If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe and share your favorite part in the comments below. And don't forget to drop a heart to show your support. Rico spoke more cautiously. That's trickier. On paper he's clean. 30 years on the force, commendations, community service awards. Either he's genuinely clean or he's been very careful hiding anything dirty. They all knew one thing. If Alan knew and did nothing, or if Alan had his own secrets, everything would change. But for now, the files, photos, bank numbers, and witness statements painted a picture. Ethan Cade had allies, he had dirty money, and he had complaints that vanished. Adrian and his team had work ahead to strip away the protection that kept him feeling untouchable. Adrian stood up from his chair and slowly walked around the large wooden table, his eyes scanning the papers and photos spread across it. There were bank statements showing money that didn't make sense, deposits with no clear source. Photographs of Officer Ethan Cade meeting with known criminals. Documents showing how complaints about Cade had disappeared before any action was taken. And more, a pattern that revealed a whole web of corruption, police officers covering for one another, protecting one of their own. Adrian stopped, his hands behind his back, and looked at everything again before he spoke. "This is good work," he said finally. "But it's not enough." Rico frowned. "What do you mean not enough? If we send this to Internal Affairs, they'll have to investigate." "They'll investigate," Adrian agreed, "but Cade has friends in high places. Friends who can make things disappear. If we give this up too soon, it'll vanish like every other complaint against him." Leo leaned forward, frustration in his voice. "So what do we need?" Adrian looked at him seriously. "We need something they can't cover up. Something so bad that not even his uncle can protect him. Something that forces the department to take action or face public outrage." "Like what?" Leo asked quietly. Adrian didn't answer right away. He thought about Elena's face, streaked with tears. He thought about how she had told him what Ethan Cade did, the threats, the violence, the fear. And he thought about how many other women there might be who had suffered in silence. "We need to find his other victims," Adrian said softly. "We need to prove this wasn't just one incident. We have to show a pattern so clear that anyone who tries to protect him becomes guilty, too." Rico nodded. "I can start asking around. Maybe there are people who filed complaints that were buried, or people who didn't file anything at all but talked about it." "Good," Adrian said. "And keep digging into his finances. Every deposit, every strange purchase. Put it all together. If he's been dirty for 2 years, I want proof for every single month." "What about surveillance?" Leo asked. "Do you want me to keep an eye on him?" "Absolutely," Adrian said firmly. "I want to know where he goes, who he meets, and what he does. Everything. Ethan Cade thinks that badge makes him untouchable. We're going to show him he's wrong." Alan, the old consigliere, cleared his throat. "Remember our agreement, Adrian. No direct action. We do this by the book." "I haven't forgotten," Adrian said calmly. He looked at each man in the room. "This isn't revenge. It's about removing a predator from power. And the best way to do that is to make the system he's been abusing turn against him." Rico gathered up the files. "Give me 3 days," he said. "I'll have enough to bury him." "You've got 2, Adrian replied. "Elena's scared enough already. I don't want her to wait any longer than she has to." When everyone else left, Adrian stayed behind in the dimly lit conference room. Papers covered the table, showing all the ugly truths about Ethan Cade. Alan paused at the door. "You know this could still backfire, right? If Cade's people find out who's behind this." "I know," Adrian said. "And you're still doing it?" "Yes." Alan studied him for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Then just make sure it's worth it." After Alan left, Adrian looked down at a photograph, Cade laughing with a group of gangsters, drinks in their hands like nothing could ever touch them. Adrian stared at it for a long time. Soon, he thought, "You're going to care. You're going to pay attention." Elena found out on the 3rd day. She was cleaning the 2nd-floor hallway when she heard voices coming from Adrian's study. The door was slightly open. She shouldn't have listened, she knew that, but when she heard Ethan's name, she froze. Financial records show steady cash deposits from shakedowns, Rico was saying. We've also got photos of him meeting with Tommy Rourke twice last month. Good, Adrian replied. What about other victims? Still looking. I've got someone reaching out to. Elena gasped and dropped the cleaning rag she was holding. They were talking about Ethan. They were actually investigating him. Panic gripped her chest so tight she could hardly breathe. She turned and ran, down the hallway, down the stairs, toward the kitchen. Mrs. Hahn was there, sorting dishes. When she saw Elena's pale face, she came over quickly. Honey, what's wrong? Elena could barely speak. He's investigating Ethan, she said, her voice shaking. Mr. Duca is investigating him. He can't. Ethan will find out. He always finds out. Mrs. Hahn's eyes widened. Come with me. No, I need to. Elena, Mrs. Hahn said sharply, her voice cutting through Elena's panic. Come with me. Now. She led Elena back upstairs to Adrian's study and knocked on the door. When Adrian opened it and saw Elena's tear-stained face, his expression softened immediately. Leave us, he said to Rico, who quickly gathered his files and left. Mrs. Hahn squeezed Elena's shoulder before stepping out and closing the door behind her. Adrian gestured toward a chair. Sit. Elena sat down for half a second, then stood up again, shaking her head. You can't do this, she said. Please, Mr. Duca. Stop looking into Ethan. Elena, you don't understand. I do, she cried, her voice rising. He'll find out. He has friends everywhere. Someone will tell him. And when he finds out someone's investigating him, he'll know it's because of me. He'll know I talked to you. Sit down, Adrian said calmly, but she couldn't. I can't. You don't get it. He'll kill me. You don't know what he's like when he's angry. Elena. Adrian took a slow step closer. He didn't touch her, but his voice was firm, commanding. Breathe. She tried, but her chest felt tight, her breath short and panicked. Look at me, Adrian said. Look at me and breathe. Something in his steady tone broke through her fear. She looked up at him and forced herself to take a shaky breath. Good, he said softly. Now another. She did. Then another. Slowly, her breathing steadied. The panic didn't disappear, but it eased just enough for her to think again. Sit down, Adrian said gently. This time, she obeyed, dropping into the chair as if her legs couldn't hold her. He sat across from her, leaning forward. How much did you hear? Enough, she said. You're looking into his money, trying to find other victims. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Mr. Duca, if he finds out. He won't, Adrian said firmly. You can't know that. Yes, I can, he replied. Because we're being careful. Ethan Cade won't know until it's too late. Elena shook her head, tears spilling again. You don't know how powerful he is. His uncle is a deputy chief. He has friends in the department. I know, Adrian interrupted calmly. And I know those friends won't save him this time. Elena, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't know I could finish it safely. There is no safe, she cried. Every time I've tried to get help, it's made things worse. When I filed a restraining order, he followed me for 2 weeks. When I went to his station, he showed up at my sister's place that same night. He always makes it worse. That's because before, Adrian said quietly, you were alone. She stopped pacing and looked at him. What? You were fighting him by yourself. And the system was built to protect him. But you're not alone anymore. He stood, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw emotion in his eyes. Not just cold calculation, but anger, protectiveness. You're under my protection now. That means something. Why? She asked, her voice trembling. Why would you risk all this? I'm just a maid. Because what he's doing is wrong, Adrian said simply. Because you work in my house, which makes you my responsibility. And because... He paused. Because I don't let people get hurt when I can stop it. Elena wanted to believe him so badly. But fear was still there, alive and heavy in her chest. You don't know what you're starting, she whispered. Yes, I do, Adrian said quietly. Listen to me, Elena. Ethan Cade will never touch you again. I promise you that. You can't promise that. I don't make promises I can't keep. Something in his tone, calm, confident, absolute, made her stop arguing. She'd been afraid for so long that she didn't know what safety even felt like anymore. What if you're wrong? She asked softly. I'm not. But what if? He looked at her directly. Elena, have I lied to you yet? She thought about it. He had promised she wouldn't lose her job, and she hadn't. He'd promised to look into Ethan, and he had. No, she said. Then trust me now. She wanted to, but her fear still held her back. Adrian seemed to understand. He went to his desk and pulled out a business card. This is a number for a private security company I trust, he said, handing it to her. If you ever feel unsafe, at work, at home, anywhere, call this number and give them your name. Someone will come within minutes. You don't have to explain anything. Elena stared at the card in disbelief. I don't understand. Why are you doing this for me? Adrian looked at her for a long moment before answering. Because no one should have to live the way you've been living, he said quietly. Always afraid. Always looking over your shoulder. You deserve better than that. And I'm going to make sure you get it. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they weren't just from fear. They were from something new, something that felt almost like hope. I'm scared, she whispered. I know. What if this makes everything worse? It won't, Adrian said, his voice full of certainty. He won't touch you again. That's my promise. She looked at him, and for the first time, she believed him. Okay, she whispered. Then again, stronger. Okay. I trust you. Adrian nodded. Good. Now go home. Act normal. Let me handle Ethan Cade. As she left the room, she still felt fear, but for the first time in months, it wasn't alone. There was something else there too. Hope. Over the next 2 days, Adrian moved carefully, like a chess player making his opening moves. The first piece fell on Tuesday morning. Officer Nate Holloway, Ethan's partner in crime, showed up for work at 7 a.m. By 7:32, 2 internal affairs officers were waiting in the parking lot. Officer Holloway, one said, showing her badge. We need to talk about some financial irregularities. Holloway's face turned pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Then you won't mind answering a few questions, she said coolly. By 8:15, Holloway was in an interrogation room, sweating as they showed him bank records proving he'd taken bribes. Someone had anonymously sent the records, with a detailed timeline, to internal affairs. By noon, Holloway broke down. He confessed and gave up Ethan Cade in exchange for a lighter punishment. Adrian got a text at 12:47 p.m. from his inside source. First domino down. Holloway is talking. The second piece fell that same night. Leo had uploaded evidence to whistleblower sites and Reddit pages about police corruption. The post said, Chicago PD Officer Ethan Cade, badge number 4729, 14th District. $43,000 in unexplained cash over 18 months. Meetings with criminal Tommy Rourke. Multiple domestic violence complaints dismissed. Someone should ask why. He attached redacted bank records, photos, and public complaint files. By midnight, the post had thousands of upvotes. Local activists were tagging news outlets, and a reporter from the Chicago Tribune was already calling contacts for confirmation. The third piece fell Wednesday afternoon. Tommy Rourke, Cade's criminal ally, was arrested outside his gym. Drug charges. Weapons violations. Conspiracy. The arrest wasn't random. Adrian had called a federal prosecutor he knew and given him an anonymous tip about a warehouse. The prosecutor found enough cocaine to put Rourke away for years. By Wednesday night, Ethan Cade's world was falling apart. Holloway had betrayed him. Rourke was in jail. His finances were all over the internet. People were asking questions. He sat in his apartment, scrolling through Reddit, furious. His phone rang. It was his uncle, Deputy Chief Alan Cade. "My office. Tomorrow morning. 8 o'clock. Uncle Vince, I can explain." 8 o'clock, his uncle repeated, and hung up. Ethan threw his phone across the room, smashing it. Someone was coming after him. Someone smart, someone with power. Then he thought of Elena. Thursday morning, Adrian got Rico's report. "Internal Affairs has officially opened a case on Cade," Rico said. "They're interviewing everyone." Holloway's testimony gave them the green light. "What about his uncle?" Adrian asked. Deputy Chief Alan Cade is furious. He's distancing himself, saying Ethan embarrassed him. Ethan's been moved to desk duty. No badge, no gun. Adrian nodded. "Good. Phase 1 is complete." "And the other dirty cops?" Alan asked. "They're running scared," Rico said. 2 already requested transfers. No one wants to be connected to him now. Leo looked up from his laptop. "And the media's circling. I've got alerts set for his name." Adrian leaned back in his chair, satisfied. The trap was working. Ethan Cade's power was breaking apart, one careful move at a time. 3 local news sites had already picked up the story. One headline called it, "Chicago's Dirty Cop Problem." Channel 7 was planning a special segment that night about police accountability and corruption. The city was buzzing with whispers and rumors. Adrian stood by the large window of his office, looking out at the skyline. From up here, Chicago looked calm and peaceful, lights twinkling, cars gliding through the streets, but he knew the truth. Somewhere out there, Ethan Cade was watching his entire world fall apart. He was probably sitting alone in his apartment, feeling the same fear and helplessness that Elena had felt for months. Adrian hoped he was. "He's going to retaliate," Alan warned, his tone grim. "Men like Cade don't go down quietly. When they're cornered, they lash out." "I know," Adrian said, turning from the window to face him. "That's exactly why we have to move faster. We've already cracked the foundation of his world. Now it's time to bring the entire structure down." Rico frowned. "How are we supposed to do that?" Adrian's expression hardened. Phase 1 was the media exposure. Phase 2 is internal affairs. And Phase 3? He paused, his eyes narrowing. Phase 3 is making sure everyone in Chicago knows who Ethan Cade really is. Not a cop, not a hero, a predator who hid behind a badge. "That's a big move," Alan said cautiously. "He's been watching Elena again," Leo cut in, opening his laptop. "Here, look at this footage from yesterday." The screen showed Ethan's car parked across the street from Elena's apartment. He'd been sitting there for 3 straight hours, just watching, waiting. Adrian's jaw tightened. "He's getting desperate," he said. "And desperate men are dangerous. We need to act now," he continued, his voice cold. "Rico, reach out to every news outlet covering the story. Give them more details, the restraining order Elena filed, the complaints other women made that were dismissed. Make them see this isn't just about police corruption. It's about a violent man who used his badge to terrorize people." "That could expose Elena," Alan said, frowning. "We'll keep her name out of it," Adrian promised. "But the truth has to come out. Cade needs to be so radioactive that no one even thinks about helping him. Anyone who touches him should go down with him." Rico nodded. "I'll make the calls. And I'll double security around Elena's place." "If Cade's going to snap, it'll happen soon," Adrian said. "I want eyes on her apartment, her route to work, everywhere she goes." When everyone left, Adrian sat alone in his dimly lit study. Outside, thunder rumbled faintly over the city. Everything was moving exactly as he had planned. Ethan Cade's protection was crumbling, his friends were abandoning him, and his secrets were spilling into the open. But Alan was right about one thing. Cornered animals were the most dangerous. and Ethan Cade was as cornered as they came. Friday, 6 a.m. Chicago woke up to chaos. The Chicago Tribune ran the story on the front page. Chicago cops' dark secret. Years of abuse, corruption, and cover-ups exposed. Channel 7 opened their morning broadcast with the scandal. The anchor's voice was serious as she read, "A Chicago police officer is at the center of a growing scandal involving domestic violence, corruption, and intimidation, allegedly covered up by the department for years." The Sun-Times hit even harder, badge of dishonor, how Officer Ethan Cade used police power to terrorize women and profit from crime. All three reports dropped at the exact same time, 6 a.m. on the dot. Coordinated. Devastating. Adrian had made sure of it. At the Duca mansion, Elena stood frozen in the kitchen, staring at the television. Mrs. Hahn, the housekeeper, had turned it on for the morning news, and now both women stood in stunned silence. The screen showed Ethan's official police photo beside images of court papers, bank statements, and a photo of him meeting with known criminal Tommy Rourke. Sources tell us Officer Cade deposited over $40,000 in unexplained cash over the past 18 months, the reporter said. Several women have now come forward anonymously, describing a pattern of harassment and intimidation by Cade, including one ex-wife who obtained a restraining order before it expired earlier this year. Elena gasped softly, covering her mouth. They were talking about her, but without naming her. Adrian had kept his promise. The Chicago Police Department's Internal Affairs Division has opened a formal investigation, the reporter continued. But critics are questioning why it took public pressure for action when complaints about Officer Cade had been dismissed for years. Mrs. Hahn reached over and squeezed Elena's hand. "It's working," she whispered. "He's losing." On the screen, reporters swarmed Ethan's precinct. A nervous police spokesperson stood at a podium, reading from a prepared statement. "The allegations against Officer Cade are being taken very seriously. He has been placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation. The Chicago Police Department does not tolerate corruption or abuse of power." Tears filled Elena's eyes. But these weren't tears of fear. They were tears of relief. For the first time in years, she felt hope. By 8 a.m., the story had gone viral. #ChicagoPD was trending online. Activists were organizing a press conference. The mayor's office was getting flooded with calls from angry citizens demanding answers. At the 14th District Station, Ethan's former colleagues were panicking. "This is a disaster," one sergeant muttered in the break room. "If they dig deeper, they'll find all of us," another said. "Nobody talks to reporters," a third warned. "And nobody defends Cade. He's radioactive." Within hours, his union rep canceled a meeting. His lawyer returned his retainer. His old drinking buddies stopped replying to his calls. Ethan Cade had become a pariah overnight. At City Hall, Deputy Chief Alan Cade, Ethan's uncle, sat at his desk, head in his hands. His phone rang non-stop. Reporters, the superintendent, the mayor's office, everyone wanted answers. 30 years of service, and now everyone thought he'd been protecting his nephew. "I didn't know," he kept saying. "I didn't know how bad it was." But deep down he had known. He'd heard the whispers. He'd seen the reports. But family loyalty had blinded him. Now it was destroying his reputation. By noon, the story spread nationwide. CNN and MSNBC picked it up. The national headline read, "How One Police Officer's Abuse of Power Exposes Systemic Failures in Law Enforcement." Social media exploded. Activists hailed Cade's downfall as proof that reform was possible. Police defenders rushed to distance themselves from him, insisting he was just one bad cop. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone was talking about it. And in the middle of all that noise, Ethan Cade's carefully built image shattered completely. At 2:17 p.m., Adrian's phone rang. It was Rico. "He's been officially suspended," Rico said. "No badge, no gun, no access to the station. The superintendent announced it an hour ago. Suspension without pay. Criminal investigation pending." "Criminal investigation?" Adrian repeated, a faint smile touching his lips. "Yeah. The FBI's getting involved," Rico said, his voice almost gleeful. That meeting with Rourke got their attention. They're looking into corruption, racketeering, even civil rights violations. They're going to tear him apart. Adrian exhaled slowly, satisfied. What about his precinct? Pure panic, Rico said. Internal Affairs is questioning everyone. 3 of his closest buddies have already hired lawyers. No one wants to be linked to him. Leo turned on the big monitor. Every major network was showing Ethan's face, always next to words like corrupt, abuser, disgrace. How's Elena holding up? Alan asked. She's processing it, Adrian said quietly. When I saw her this morning, she was crying, but not from fear. She told me, thank you. Leo looked up from his laptop. It's getting worse for him. More people are speaking out online. Women saying he harassed them at traffic stops, threatened them, bullied them. The floodgates are open. Adrian nodded. Good. The truth needs to come out. Alan sighed. The thing about predators is, they never have just one victim. They always have a pattern. You just made that pattern visible. At 4 p.m., Elena knocked softly on Adrian's office door. Come in, he said. She entered slowly, looking small in her plain clothes. But when she met his eyes, there was something new in her face. Calm, maybe even peace. I watched the news, she said softly. All day. They're saying he's going to be arrested. That the FBI is investigating. Is it really over? Not yet, Adrian said, standing. But we're close. He can't hurt you anymore. He has no badge, no authority, no protection. He's just a man now. And men like him can be held accountable. Elena's voice trembled. I never thought anyone could actually stop him. You're safe now, Adrian said gently. That's what matters. Elena looked at him for a long moment, then suddenly stepped forward and hugged him. It was quick, impulsive. She pulled back right away, embarrassed. I'm sorry, she said softly. It's fine, he replied. You're welcome. After she left, Adrian stood by the window again. The sun was setting over Chicago, the sky painted in shades of orange and red. Somewhere out there, Ethan Cade was watching his entire life burn down around him. Tomorrow, Adrian thought, would be the final act. Ethan Cade had been drinking since noon. His apartment was a mess, empty bottles on the table, papers scattered across the floor, his phone shattered against the wall. The TV blared non-stop coverage of his downfall. Every channel showed his face. Every headline called him a monster. By 6 p.m. Saturday, his anger had turned cold. This was Elena's fault. All of it. If she hadn't left him, if she hadn't gotten that job, if she hadn't turned people against him, none of this would have happened. She'd destroyed his life, and she was going to pay. He grabbed his jacket, his keys, and stormed out. He didn't need his badge or his gun. He just needed to make her understand what she'd done to him. What he didn't know was that Adrian had already predicted this. 2 blocks from Elena's apartment in Pilsen, an unmarked van sat parked near a closed laundromat. Inside, Rico D'Amato watched several monitors showing live camera feeds of Elena's street. Movement, Leo said suddenly. Blue sedan heading east on 18th Street. Rico leaned forward. That's him. You sure? Positive. Same car he's used to stalk her before. Rico grabbed his phone. He's on the move. Get ready. 4 blocks away, detectives Jordan Hahn and Carlos Vega sat in an unmarked car, waiting. Both were good cops, honest, loyal, and handpicked by Adrian for this operation. Target inbound, Jordan said after getting Rico's call. You think he's dumb enough to go to her? Carlos asked. Desperate people do stupid things, Jordan replied, checking her weapon. And this guy's got nothing left to lose. At the Duca mansion, Adrian watched the feeds from his security room. He could see Elena's apartment building, the street, and the surrounding blocks. Everything was ready. He's been watching her for 3 days, Adrian said. He's out of money, out of friends, out of options. Cornered men like him always go back to their victims. It's what they do. If he doesn't show, we wait. But he'll show. In her sister Camila's apartment, Elena sat on the couch with a book in her lap, unable to read. Every noise outside made her heart race. "You should eat something," Camila said from the kitchen. "I'm not hungry," Elena replied quietly. "You need to." Camila stopped. She'd heard it too. The low hum of a car engine idling outside. Elena's hands shook as she picked up her phone and called Adrian's private number. At 6:27 p.m., Ethan Cade parked across the street. He looked up at the second-floor window, light on, movement inside. She was home. He got out of his car and crossed the street, his face hard with anger. The front door wasn't locked. It never was. He climbed the stairs 2 at a time and began pounding on the door. "Elena, I know you're in there." Inside, Elena backed away, clutching her phone. Camila stood in front of her protectively. "Go away, Ethan. We're calling the police." "I am the police," he shouted. "Elena, open this door right now. We need to talk about what you've done." In the surveillance van, Rico spoke into his radio. "He's at the door, making threats. Move in." "Copy that," Jordan replied. 2 minutes out. Ethan kept yelling. "You ruined my life, my career, my reputation. You think you can just hide in there?" He rattled the doorknob. "I'll break this door down." "Ethan Cade!" a sharp voice shouted from behind him. He spun around. Detective Jordan Hahn stood at the top of the stairs, her badge visible, hand near her weapon. Her partner, Carlos Vega, blocked the stairway below. "Step away from the door," Jordan ordered. "You don't understand." "I understand you're violating a harassment order and making threats," Jordan interrupted. "Hands where I can see them." "There's no order. It expired." Ethan barked. "Wrong," Carlos said. "A new one was filed this morning. Emergency order, signed at 10 a.m. You were served by email." Ethan froze, his face pale. I never got." "Hands behind your back," Jordan said, pulling out her cuffs. "This is bullshit. You can't." "I'm a cop." "You were a cop," Carlos corrected. "Now you're just another criminal." "Get your hands off me." Ethan tried to pull away. That was all Jordan needed. "Resisting arrest," she said coolly. In seconds, both detectives grabbed him, turned him around, and slammed him against the wall. The cuffs clicked shut. Ethan struggled, shouting curses, but it was over. And right then, the news crews arrived. Adrian had sent them an anonymous tip 15 minutes earlier. Chicago cop Ethan Cade is about to violate a protective order. If you want the story, be at this address at 6:30 p.m. They came, 3 vans, cameras rolling. Channel 7 filmed Ethan being led out in handcuffs, screaming at the officers. Channel 5 caught him being shoved into the back of the squad car, yelling that he was being framed. The Sun-Times photographer captured the perfect image. Ethan Cade, disgraced former cop, red-faced and furious, being arrested in the same neighborhood where he had once terrorized his ex-wife. By 7 p.m., the footage was everywhere. Ethan Cade's downfall was complete. The city watched as the news about a fallen cop spread everywhere. People's reactions came instantly. On social media, some were happy, others furious that it had taken so long. Local activists held a quick press conference to praise the arrest. The mayor's office released a statement about justice, fairness, and accountability. Ethan Cade, a man who had once walked around like he owned the city, had finally fallen. He had been untouchable for years, until now. The whole city had watched his downfall in real time. Inside a security room filled with screens and quiet hums of electronics, Adrian Moretti watched the live coverage calmly. Next to him stood Alan Caro, his most trusted man. Alan gave a small, satisfied smile. "It's done," Alan said softly. "Not quite," Adrian replied, pulling out his phone. "But close." Meanwhile, at Elena Cruz's apartment, she sat on the couch. Her sister Rose sat beside her, both of them crying, Not from fear, but from relief. After so many nights of terror and hiding, they were finally safe. The feeling was strange and overwhelming. Elena's phone buzzed. She picked it up with shaky hands. A text from Adrian appeared on the screen. "It's over. He can't hurt you anymore." She read it through tears and let out a shaky breath. For the first time in more than a year, she felt a single, simple word inside her. Safe. Outside, red and blue lights flashed against the buildings. Neighbors whispered on the sidewalks, talking about the cop who had finally been arrested. Inside the patrol car, Ethan Cade sat handcuffed, staring out the window, realizing that his world had ended. He had crossed the wrong man. He had hurt someone protected by Adrian Moretti. And in Chicago, that was the one rule you never broke. Monday morning arrived with clear skies and soft sunshine. For the first time in months, Elena walked to work without fear. She didn't check behind her. She didn't search for Ethan's blue sedan. She didn't feel her heart racing every time she heard a car door slam. Ethan Cade was sitting in Cook County Jail. The judge had denied his bail. The charges were too serious. The FBI had started digging deeper into his crimes. The news had already moved on to other stories, but for Elena, everything had changed forever. At around 10 o'clock, Mrs. Hahn, the Duca family's kind housekeeper, found Elena in the kitchen making coffee. She was smiling, a real smile, the first in months. "He wants to see you," Mrs. Hahn said gently. "In his office." Elena's smile faded slightly. "Did I do something wrong?" "Honey, no," Mrs. Hahn replied, patting her arm. "Just go. Trust me." Elena climbed the grand staircase to Adrian's study. She knocked lightly and entered when he called for her. He was standing by the large window, looking out at the skyline. When he turned to face her, his expression was calm but warm. "Sit down, Elena," he said. She sat carefully, folding her hands in her lap. Adrian picked up a brown envelope from his desk. "We need to talk about your living situation," he said. Elena's stomach sank. "I know my sister's apartment isn't perfect, but I'm saving money for my own place," she said quickly. "I just need a few more months." Adrian shook his head. "That's not what I mean. I'm not saying you have to move because of a problem. I'm asking you to think about something else." He opened the envelope and pulled out a set of shiny silver keys. "These are for an apartment in Lincoln Park," he said. 2 bedrooms. Secure building. Doorman, cameras, 24-hour security. He placed the keys on the desk and slid them toward her. "It's yours, if you want it." Elena blinked at the keys in disbelief. "Mr. Duca, I can't afford." "It's already paid for," Adrian said before she could finish. He opened the folder again and showed her papers. 3 years' rent, paid in full. The lease is under a management company I own. Your name isn't on anything public. Ethan Cade could never find it. "I don't understand," Elena whispered. "You need a new beginning," Adrian said quietly. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere his shadow can't touch you. Camila can come too. That's why it has 2 bedrooms." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Why are you doing this for me?" Adrian leaned back in his chair, his voice calm and steady. "Because everyone deserves to feel safe. Because you've been looking over your shoulder for too long. And because no one who works under my roof gets hurt, ever. Not while I can do something about it." Elena began to cry again, covering her face with her hands. "It's too much. I can't accept it." "It's already done," Adrian said, his tone firm but gentle. "The apartment is waiting. Whether you take it or not is your choice, but I hope you do." "Mr. Duca." "There's something else," he added, pulling out another paper. "I've arranged private security for you. Nothing noticeable. You'll barely know they're there, but they'll keep an eye out for a while, until we're sure Ethan's gone for good." Elena took a deep breath, overwhelmed. "I don't even know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Adrian said softly, walking around his desk to stand closer to her. "You came to work here 3 months ago. You worked hard, never complained. When I found out someone was hurting you, I made sure it stopped. But you already did so much, Elena said. The investigation, the arrest. You gave me my life back. And now, Adrian said, his voice warm, I'm giving you the space to start a new one. You've been surviving, Elena. Now it's time to live again. She started crying harder, but these were different tears, ones filled with gratitude, relief, and freedom. Adrian handed her a tissue and waited patiently. I don't know how to thank you, she said finally. Then don't, Adrian said simply, sliding the keys closer. Just take the apartment. Be safe. Be happy. That's all I ask. Elena picked up the keys. They felt heavy in her hand, heavy with hope, with freedom. Camila will be thrilled, she said with a shaky smile. She's been wanting to move for months. Good, Adrian said, returning to his chair. Take the rest of the day off. Go see the place. If you need anything, furniture, supplies, Mrs. Hahn has a company card. Use it. Mr. Duca, I can't. Elena, he said gently, meeting her eyes. Please, let me do this. She nodded, clutching the keys tightly. Thank you. For everything. For believing me. For protecting me. For caring. Of course I cared, Adrian said. You work in my house. That makes you family. And I protect my family. She stood, started to leave, then turned back. When I first met you, I thought you were scary, she admitted with a small laugh. All the rumors about who you are, what you do. But you're the kindest person I've ever met. You saved my life. Adrian was silent for a moment. I'm not a good man, Elena, he said finally. Don't mistake this for proof that I am. I just have my own code. Ethan crossed a line. That's all. Still, she said softly, thank you. After she left, Adrian sat alone. Maybe she was right. Maybe he had saved her life. Or maybe he'd just given her the tools to save herself. His phone buzzed. A text from Rico lit up the screen. Cade was charged with corruption, extortion, stalking, harassment, and assault. DA's pushing for the max, 15 to 20 years. Adrian smiled slightly. Justice had been done, cleanly and quietly. The system had worked, because he made sure it couldn't ignore the truth. He looked out at the city lights. Somewhere, Elena Cruz was unpacking boxes, finally free. Somewhere else, Ethan Cade was sitting in a cold jail cell, realizing too late that some people were untouchable, just not in the way he thought. A week later, Chicago was still buzzing. On the evening news, the anchor said, former police officer Ethan Cade appeared in court today facing 17 charges. If convicted, he could face up to 25 years. 2 weeks ago, his co-host added, he was a decorated cop. Now he's finished. People are wondering how this happened so fast. Some say an unseen hand made it all fall apart. Online, people were obsessed. Reddit threads, podcasts, videos, everyone had theories. But nobody had proof. At the police station, 3 more officers were suspended. The FBI expanded its investigation. Even Deputy Chief Alan Cade, Ethan's uncle, had retired early, his name ruined. The blue wall of silence was cracking. In Lincoln Park, Elena stood in her new apartment. Morning sunlight poured through tall windows. The furniture Adrian had arranged was perfect. Camila came out of her room smiling. I still can't believe this is ours. 3 years, paid for, Elena said. He's a good man. You're Mr. Duca? Camila teased. Elena smiled. Not good exactly, but honorable. At 7:30 a.m., Elena walked to the bus stop. The air was cool. The doorman waved. A jogger nodded. A woman walking her dog smiled. Good morning. Normal life. Finally. She felt tears, but this time, she didn't let them fall. Ethan Cade was gone. She was free. At the Duca mansion, Adrian stood on his balcony, coffee in hand, watching the sunrise. His phone buzzed again, a text from Rico. Cade's lawyer tried to make a deal. The DA said no. They're going to trial. Adrian smiled faintly. Admiring your work, Alan said, stepping out with his own cup. Making sure it's done, Adrian replied. The city's still talking, Alan said. Everyone wants to know who brought Cade down. Let them wonder, Adrian said simply. This makes a statement, you know, Alan continued. You protect your people. Good, Adrian said. Alan chuckled. You're getting soft in your old age. I'm 37, Adrian replied dryly. They stood in silence, looking over the waking city. Somewhere, Elena was on a bus, safe. Somewhere, Ethan was behind bars. And somewhere, bad cops were worrying they might be next. The news calls it divine intervention, Alan said. Not divine, Adrian said quietly. Just justice. Mrs. Hahn appeared at the door. Elena wanted me to tell you thank you again, she said with a smile. She's happy. Really happy. After she left, Adrian looked at the city one last time. Beneath the peaceful skyline, he knew corruption still ran deep. But sometimes, the darkness pushed back. Adrian Moretti had sent a message, one few would ever understand. Touch what's mine, and even the law won't protect you. He finished his coffee and turned back toward his study. There was work to do. But for now, he allowed himself one small thought. Elena Cruz was safe. Ethan Cade was finished. And Chicago had learned, quietly, that some people have lines you just don't cross. The end. If this story moved you, please subscribe for more kind and powerful stories. Watch our next video for another unforgettable journey. And share this story with someone who needs it today.